Welcome back to DatatoDecisions. In the previous video, we saw how we can create a dynamic column chart. As the data expands and changes, your column chart will still be accurate, accommodating all the changes in your data. Now, in this video, if I want my chart to be sorted based on, in this case, the count of employees or any measure that you're looking into, how can I do that dynamically? Column chart, a purpose of a column chart is to be able to compare the measure against different categories. However, many cases, it is also used to represent the order of the categories based on the measure, whether you want to see the top departments in terms of the number of employees or the departments with the least number of employees. So the order kind of makes a difference in many cases. In this video, I'm going to explain how we can go from creating a dynamic chart like this, which will take into account the raw data, count the number of employees, and then sort them based on the user input. So if I wanted the ascending order based on number of employees, you can see that it's dynamic. And again, it's fully automated. So let's take a look at how we can do this in Excel. So here we have, as promised, this is, from scratch. We're going to develop everything from scratch. We have the raw data coming here in columns NOP, and we're going to build our charts over to the left. Now, the first step is to select all the values in our raw data, Control T to put it into a table. And I am going to give the name data to this table on the top left. And now the first part of formulas that we're going to write here are, first, let's do the usual. Let's calculate the distinct list of employees by saying data, square brackets, departments. I'm going to create a distinct list of department names. I apologize. So I've created a distinct list of department names. Now I can count the number of employees by doing COUNTIF. Go and check in the department. I'm going pretty quickly on this step because we covered this in the previous video. What am I checking against? I'm going to check against search for the value of each department names, and I will put a hash because it's dynamic, and I'm going to hit enter. So this is very quick. We got the number of employees, department sorted by the count of employees. So let's just make it even more dynamic. Let's say the user wants to dictate whether it's ascending or descending. So I'm going to enter the value ascending here, and the user can change this to descending if they would like. And let's do a simple data validation here. Go to data, validation, list. I'm saying ascending, comma, descending. And then hit OK. So now there is a little drop down. Again, you can skip this part if this is not what you're after, but it's a little bit more interactive when we do this. So the user selects descending or ascending there, but how do I take that into account and then create an order, right? So let's just maybe I'm going to populate here a simple formula to say if this equals descending, right? Then I want to do -1, otherwise I do +1. So let's just keep it there. Let's go back and see how we can sort it first. Sort by, and this is something that we covered in one of the previous videos as well. Sort by function allows us to say, what am I sorting by? And I can say, I'm sorting this, but that's not dynamic. Remember that when you select cells like this, it's not going to be dynamic. So let's say I do C7 hash. That is referencing a dynamic array. And now, what do I want to sort this by? I want to sort this by the count of employees. So I'm going to say D7 hash and comma. What is the order? The order is ascending if it's 1, -1 is descending. We already, calculated -1 or +1 based on user input in this cell. So I'm going to select the cell J5 and close parenthesis, hit OK, hit enter. And now I get the sorted list of departments. So IT department, which has the highest number of employees, comes first. Marketing is second, and then third is finance. So you can clearly see it's working to give me the sorted department names. And then you can again do a count here IT count and marketing count, and that can be used for the chart. So that works perfectly. But if I were to minimize the number of columns that I'm using here and then make it as efficient in terms of putting all my formula in fewer cells as possible, if that's what I'm going after because I want to minimize the real estate or the space that I'm taking on screen for calculations, then we can use a let function. So I'm going to use this for the first time here. So let function allows us to give names to parts of a calculation. So for example here, think through this. What are we doing here? We are basically saying sort by, and then we are saying sort by the department list, distinct department list, right? Sort by the distinct department list. And what do I want to sort it by? Count of employees in each department. And then I am using the order based on the user input. So I'll just copy paste it here. So this is all we're doing. Sort by department list, count of employees, and order. So clearly there are three components that if we pass through and then we get the result, we can do all of this in one formula. So I'm going to go to this and try that to make it work. So I'm going to change this to let, open parenthesis. I do Alt Enter to go to the next line, and this is just to make sure that the formula is a little bit easier to follow. It might be a little bit longer than the usual formulas we do. Now, first thing is I want to call this department. So just type departments, and then that's the name we have given. But what is the value? The value is distinct list of department names. So I will just type that's something that we already know. Unique data department, then do a comma, then Alt Enter to go to the next line. You don't have to do this. This is just purely for appearance and it doesn't change the functionality. And then the next thing is we want count of employees. So I'm going to call it counts, comma, and then how are we counting it? We're doing COUNTIF, and we are counting the data department column. And what are we checking for? Distinct list of department, but we've already given a name to that. So that makes it easy. I can just say departments and then close parenthesis, and then do a comma again, Alt Enter. The last part of the argument we need is order. What is my order? I can say if this cell equals descending, then say -1, otherwise say 1. That's basically the order. We have now defined all these three components. Now, what should the let function give us in result? That's the last part. I want the let function to give me sort by, open parenthesis, departments, comma, count of employees in each department. So I know the counts. I've named it counts, comma, order. So I'll explain this all once again. I close sort by, and I also close the open parenthesis or the let function that we had before, as you see. Now that's the entire formula. I hit enter. So it gives me the same result. But before we go into that, let's run through the formula again. The let function says I'm going to define the name departments for this result. What is this result? I can select it, press F9. I'll show you that these are the values in that Control Z to undo. Now, the second thing I'm naming is, so this array counts the number of employees in each department. And then finally, the order, if I select all this and hit F9, it gives me -1, and that's because the user input is descending. So basically, these three components have been calculated and named. And finally, they are used in the sort by function is so much easier to read if this is this way, right? Again, multiple ways to do it, but this is, I'm just in this phase of learning new things, and this is something that I learned today. So I wanted to share. And if I hit enter, again, it gives me a dynamic array of departments, but they're already sorted by this is actually sorted, right? And then the employee count basically says, go to the department, count this. You don't have to change that. That still works. We don't really need this column anymore because we've gotten all the information that we need for our chart. So what we're going to do now is let's go and clear this. We don't need that. So that's okay. Now let's do the chart. We already learned in the previous video how to do the chart with the dynamic reference. So I'm going to start off by selecting this, go to Insert, Cluster Column Chart. Just like the previous video, I'm just going to use my template of appearance. Again, it just changes the way it looks, doesn't change any functionality. And I noticed that we don't need this -1 anymore. We'll delete that part. So now we have a chart, which is not dynamic yet. Okay, so what we will do is to give a name to this list of departments by clicking the cell C7, go to formulas, define name. We'll call it departments, put a hash. I think it's okay to name again this also as departments because the previously we defined within the let function, if you remember, within the department. But I think that only stays within the let function. But now in the chart, that is not something that is available. So we can use the same names again. So for employee count, I'm going to click on cell D7, define name, and I will call it counts. Let's keep it simple. Hash. Okay. So now we have given names. The last part is to just connect the chart with those names. So we go into the series and we can actually give a name to this. Let's say employees. And then the most important thing here is select everything after the exclamation mark and then type in the counts because we named it as counts. And then go to the access labels on the other side and then select everything after the exclamation mark and then call it departments and hit OK. So now we have connected this chart to dynamic arrays of departments and counts. So we have 6 categories or 6 departments here. So how do we test this? So if I go and change this to ascending, it changes automatically. If I choose descending, it changes. So one thing is it is sorting by the measures. But how do I make sure that it's even more dynamic by accommodating new data? So we have data here until marketing, but I saved a few extra rows here. So I'm gonna select all of them and then go to the end of the table and say that. So now I've added more employees, and now you see my chart is automatically still taking into account all the new departments, and it still does the sorting. So that's exactly what we want. That's the objective of this video. How do you make sure that your order is still reflecting the new data that's coming through? So that's the end of this video. Just to quickly recap, we have raw data we converted into a table, and we use the let function to calculate the distinct list of department names, but sorted based on the um, count of employees. And then we gave them names here, name manager. So let's show that. So in the name manager, we gave the name counts and departments, and then we finally connected the chart to those names. If you have any questions on this, please let me know. If you have other suggestions, please use the comment section. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon in another video.